Man, I am excited to talk to you. I'm so glad that you reached out to me, Rob, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be a guest on your show.
I know, right? This used to be like your time slot a long time ago, right?
That was my original one. Yeah, 3 to 6 started out with Corey Miller, and then Bill, and then we went to 6 to 9 morning drive. So a lot of great people over there, and we had an awesome time at iHeart. So a lot of great friends, including yourself, man.
Well, I bring you on today because I want to talk a little bit about NC State and get your thoughts on the Gamecock matchup as well. Uh, when you look around, there's talk that maybe Clemson's on upset alert this weekend. Do the Wolfpack have enough to get it done against the Tigers?
Yes, in a word, yes. I think of all the NC State teams that I've witnessed in my life, and I'm approaching 45 years old, I think this one, top to bottom, when it comes to at the same time, this is the most talent that State's ever had. So cumulatively, all at one time. In the past they had Philip Rivers and a really high-powered offense, and unfortunately the defense wasn't great. And then Philip Rivers graduated, and then they had Mario Williams and 3 first-round defensive linemen on that same line. So they could never get it lined up at the exact same time. But I think cumulatively, this is the most talent that State's had, top to bottom. So they definitely have a shot for sure.
Well, with that though, I mean, they going down to Mississippi State. I'm thinking I'm not buying the Pirate down there. I think that I don't think he's going to be there long, in my opinion. But I thought NC State had a real chance to win that matchup at Mississippi State, but they were kind of handled down there in Starkville.
Yeah, they laid an egg. I mean, there's not really any other way to assess that. State started out the game. Mississippi State opened up with the opening kickoff return for a touchdown. The crowd started getting into it, and State never really got together. They just never could put it together on both sides of the ball. And no other way to say it, they laid an egg. And I don't think that's really indicative of what kind of state teams NC State has this year. It wasn't exciting to watch that game as a Wolfpack fan.
But looking at it from this perspective, though, they've got, they're 2-1 on the season down there at Mississippi State. You said they laid an egg. South Florida is pretty much terrible, and then Furman is what an FCS school. So we really maybe haven't really seen them much other than the performance they put out there against the Wolfpack. But you're saying they do have the talent, though. They could possibly upset Clemson. Is there one area that you look at and you're like, you know what? NC State might just be better than what Clemson has at that one spot?
At one spot, I mean, I would say right now probably quarterback, just based on how DJ Uyunglele has played. But keep in mind, NC State was predicted to be second in the Atlantic. They were predicted to finish right behind Clemson in the Atlantic Division. So, I mean, this was a team coming into the season that people thought pretty highly of. But if you look around State's entire roster, you do have talent. And you look at the running back position, for instance, Ricky Person, former 5-star running back, along with Bam Knight, former 4-star running back. You have talent and experience at wide receiver. The offensive line, you have a first-round pick coming up in 2022 in Ike Ekwonu. Their center, Grant Gibson, is on the Remington list. Defensive line, they've got 3, 4, 5-star kids all over there. They did lose their top defensive player against Mississippi State. Peyton Wilson went down with an injury, and unfortunately, he's out for the year. But if there was one position where State could afford to lose a player, it was at linebacker, because they're very deep in that position. Drake Thomas, a very proven and stout linebacker. They've got talent all over that spot, and then probably the most deep defensive backfield that they've had in a long time. So, Clemson is more talented than NC State. There's no question about that. But NC State is a very talented team across the board, and they have experience. So it remains to be seen what will happen on Saturday. But I know a lot of people in Raleigh are feeling good about their chances just based on what State brings to the table, and given how unimpressive Clemson has started out 2021.
And that is very fair with the Clemson offense. But I have to ask you this. They call it the Textile Bowl. Clemson's won 8 straight in this series. Do you think that maybe it weighs on NC State a little bit, thinking, you know what, at one point, I remember Clemson going up there and losing in shootouts and just getting buried up there, but they've won 8 straight. Does that weigh on the mental state there for the Wolfpack?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's a stout challenge when you're taking on Clemson. Dave Doran's mentioned this, and I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that Clemson is considered the gold standard of the ACC. So I think if anything, NC State probably looks at it as an opportunity to pull a big upset at home. It's going to be a raucous environment. It's going to be a crazy crowd. Carter Finley is going to be loud. It's certainly going to be the most difficult away environment that Uyunglele has played in, considering last year they really had no crowds to face. So there's a lot here positively that NC State can be excited about for tomorrow. But no, I mean, Clemson is Clemson. So I think it's kind of like playing Duke and North Carolina in basketball. You get excited about the challenge of taking on some of the best in the nation.
It's going to be an interesting matchup tomorrow, 3:30 up there at Carter Finley Stadium. From the Clemson that you've seen this season, though, and then from what we've seen last year with Uyunglele, you think it's an issue of footwork? Is it the offensive line, in your opinion, or maybe they're just not gelling yet?
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Clemson, and I think that's probably the million-dollar question that the staff and everyone associated with that program is trying to figure out. Because I think it would be one thing if when we saw Uyunglele this year, he was green, and then you could probably understand a little bit of it. But this is a guy who went on the road and played really well at Notre Dame last year. Now, granted, there was no crowd, but regardless, you saw the talent that he had on the road making his first start. He played a phenomenal game. I think it's really, the offensive line isn't great, right? So you have some issues on the offensive line. Clemson's still trying to figure out what his identity is. I think for Clemson, from a coaching standpoint, they've been pretty spoiled lately when it comes to the quarterback spot. And I'm sure going into 2021, they really thought that Uyunglele would be the man that guides that entire offense. They would run their offense through him. And as of now, he just hasn't been settled. And I don't know if that's, feeling pressure, feeling just like he has to be the man and pressing himself, but he certainly hasn't been comfortable. And then I don't think the coaching staff has helped him out at all. I think they put him in positions right now just based on his performance where it's hard for him to be successful. And I think if you're a Wolfpack fan right now, your fear is that they've gone back to film and they've realized that offensively their best weapon is Will Shipley at running back, and they just start handing him the rock. That's what scares me about what Clemson potentially can do, because again, there's talent everywhere, but Clemson has a bit of an identity crisis right now on offense.
But to see how that matchup works out. Of course, you used to work on our fifth quarter postgame show on WVOC covering the Gamecocks. We're through the first 3 games of Shane Beamer. What do you think about what he's done with the Gamecocks here as we're a quarter of the way through the season?
I mean, they're 2-1 right now, so
right.
He's probably right on schedule. I mean, I think the East Carolina game was closer than some imagined that it would be, but I don't think there's any question that there's a new wave of enthusiasm in the program, as there should be. When you have a coaching change, that lends itself to hope and enthusiasm and minimal expectations, which is a good posture to be if you're a Gamecock fan right now. But I think he's definitely energized the fan base from a recruiting standpoint, and they're excited about what could become. I know Gamecock fans historically have gotten a little bit over their skis in terms of who they are and what they are and really where they are as a program. I think this weekend will be a good test for them. They'll have a chance to see how they stack up against a program that theoretically they should be better than, although I think Mark Stoops has done a really good job building Kentucky and that offense with the Penn State transfer at quarterback is a different style of Kentucky offense. So if I'm a Gamecock fan, I want to win this weekend. I think I have a chance to win. Am I overly bummed and disappointed and heartbroken and angry if they lose? You shouldn't be, because I think today Kentucky's a better football team and a better football program than South Carolina. Not to say that that's going to be the future, but today they certainly are. And let's be real, Kentucky's had South Carolina's number over the past 5 or 6 years.
Right. Well, getting back to that for a moment, your former co-host over there, Tim Frisbee, when you mentioned Kentucky to him, he has this look of just absolute disgust, and he thinks that that Kentucky on South Carolina's schedule is like Vanderbilt. And it used to be that way, but the Wildcats have kind of made the turn. They've won 6 out of the last 7, and their fan base is pretty confident they can come into Williams-Brice and pick up a win tomorrow night.
Well, they should be. I mean, they're 3-0. They're off to a good start. Again, the offense looks the best that it's looked in years. Now, this historically is a Kentucky team, or at least over the past couple of seasons, has been one that's been dominated by its defense. Their defense has been able to keep them in games and help them win some games perhaps that they shouldn't win. But right now they bring a solid defense along with an offense that can stretch the field. So, if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm certainly excited and confident about coming into Williams-Brice and taking on South Carolina right now. And, the kind of the questions are still out there about the Gamecocks right now. They have some talent. There's no doubt. Muschamp did a pretty good job of recruiting. But had they put all the pieces in the right places right now to take on and defeat a team like Kentucky, who's playing great? We'll see. I know the crowd is going to be a huge factor. So one huge asset that the Gamecocks will have is 85,000 plus rocking and excited on a what sets up to be an absolutely perfect weather day in South. Call that a Chamber of Commerce weather day tomorrow evening in South Carolina.
It is going to be a beautiful day for football. But Jonathan Reynolds joining us here on the program. We appreciate him stopping by. I do have to ask you about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin down there with a great putting together a great offense. I tell you what, Ole Miss might be a problem if he could figure out how to get a little bit of defense out of that team.
Yeah, and I think the defense is playing better. The Ole Miss, there's not many teams in the country right now that are going to score with Ole Miss. Matt Corral is the perfect trigger man for what Lane Kiffin wants to do and what Riles want to do on offense. And they've opened it up and they've given him full reins, and he's proven to be the man. I mean, I think right now, if you pulled anyone, Matt Corral has got to be your number one Heisman candidate just based on how he's played thus far. And I love Lane Kiffin. I know a lot of people dogged him for a long time, but I've always said, like, you put me at the head of an SEC program in my early 30s, and I probably will be a bit of a jerk then, coming off a head coaching stint with the Oakland Raiders and then going to Southern Cal. I don't blame him for being a little arrogant. I mean, he's had some amazing gigs, but I've never doubted his coaching acumen. I think he proved his worth when he was at Florida Atlantic with what he did over the course of a couple of seasons there, and he's proven that he can get it done at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss, keep in mind, another one of those teams that has had good talent. They just haven't had anybody to put it together. So it'll be interesting to see how Ole Miss fares the rest of the season. But I know in the SEC West now, you see the emergence of Arkansas. You see certainly Alabama still there. So that's going to be fun to see what Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin's offense are able to do this year. But they're certainly a fun team to watch, and the best uniform in college football with the baby blue helmets. Love it.
All right, well, a couple more questions for you before we get you out of here. First of all, folks are focused on Texas A&M and Arkansas tomorrow, but I think the more intriguing game is LSU going on the road to Mississippi State. LSU gave up like 600 yards passing to Mississippi State last season. Vegas thinks that it's going to be a close game. I think that Ed Orgeron, I think he got a talking to when they lost to UCLA. It's going to be more than a talking to, in my opinion, if he goes down there and gets clobbered again by Mississippi State.
Well, yeah, and I think for Ed O, you had all those comparisons to some former coaches that just kind of came in on
Gene
the heels
Chizik.
of someone else. And,
Gene Chizik,
sort
that's
of like,
the best one.
Yeah, exactly, like a Gene Chizik at Auburn, and then didn't do anything. And just based on Orgeron's personality, it's easy to imagine him getting distracted a little bit and taking his hands off the wheel and his focus off the program. And I think that UCLA loss certainly put more focus on what he's doing and cranks the wick up underneath him a little bit. Mississippi State's going to be tough. That's a tough environment. They're figuring out that Mike Leach offense, and I believe in Mike Leach. I believe in that offense. I think it can work in the SEC. They've got to have the right quarterback to make it happen. And their offense is predicated on getting the ball out quickly, and then having a playmaker make plays in space. And if LSU allows that to happen, Mississippi State will win this football game because they're going to control the clock. Their passing game operates in some ways like a running game. And if they're able to do that, control the clock, the crowd gets into it, I certainly think they can beat LSU. I'm not going to pick them right now, but I certainly think they're capable of beating LSU. And there's no surprise to me that they're favored, or at least that's a close line by Vegas.
All right, well, I'm doing my picks here later on, but can you give me your pick for Clemson, NC State, and, of course, Kentucky and South Carolina before you go?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I want to believe that my Wolfpack can get it done. I really do, and I think they have a great shot. But I'm not going to pick them. I think going into this game, I feel like Clemson again has the talent to get it done. And my fear as a Wolfpack fan, we always kind of lean to worst case scenario because it usually comes to fruition. So I'll say that Clemson wins this game 24-16 over NC State. And for
covering the
Carolina,
spread though, that's good.
And for Carolina and Kentucky, I will go Kentucky 31, Carolina 17.
A little flat there for the Gamecocks. All right, Jonathan, tell folks where they can follow you on Twitter because you do put some interesting stuff out there. And tell people you're saving souls. I mean, that's really what you're doing now.
Yes, yeah. As soon as radio was ending, God took me and transitioned me into ministry, and it's been amazing. And I love interacting with people. I love using some of the skills that I learned on the radio when it comes to preaching. It's been a blessing, and it's exciting just to help people find their way and lead them to Jesus. It's awesome. And if you want, you can follow me at Preach Jonathan, and if you want to come visit me, you can visit me at the Harvest Church off of Highway 378 right here in beautiful Lexington, South Carolina.
All right, Jonathan. Hey, man, as always, I appreciate it when you join us here on the show, man, and I hope you have a great weekend, man.
Oh, man, thank you so much, Rob. I pray that everyone has an awesome weekend, and it was a joy. Be good, my friend.
All right, there you go. Jonathan Reynolds joining us, former host here at Fox Sports Radio, and, of course, now he's into saving souls. I don't, it's not like I'm mocking him when he does that. Just think it's cool that he really does. He's trying to make the world a little bit better place. Nothing wrong with that. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you here on the rundown. Picks against the spread later on, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I think Megan's drinking. Earlier, we were talking about Kentucky and South Carolina. They're not in the ACC. What is? I don't get it. Must drink on Friday there, Megan. Yeah, so what, Jackpot? I'll send pizza to your house with anchovies on it. No, Caden, it was your mom. She's making dinner. You eat pizza with anchovies, Jackpot? Wow. Not eating that. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. We're going to preview the rest of the weekend here in a moment, but phone lines are always open, 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Rob, you talk about going from two extremes, man. 1 minute you're talking to one of the best people you could probably speak to, and then next thing you know, you got a steaming, stinking turd on the line like the old begging Megan here. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I mean, Jonathan Reynolds really is saving souls, so but you got to better make sure you don't go over too far. But what do you got for the show today, man?
Well, I wanted to visit the old bookcase of accountability, not concerning you or Clemson, but do you remember when the Florida man told you that they didn't need Matt Corral or Coral, however you say it, and that they were upgrading to Emory Jones? Do you recall that?
I do recall that. The problem is that the bookcase of accountability, people say so many silly things. I'm running out of spots, and we're only three games in. So,
yeah, for the people that don't know, Matt Corral was committed to Florida, and then along comes the quarterback whisperer, and I guess they decided they didn't need that second-rate player, Matt Corral, and that they would go with Emory Jones. So, just wanted to keep that fresh in the minds of the Lizards who are worshiping at the altar of Daniel Mullen, who all of a sudden can't beat a Power 5 team to save his life. Has one of the worst records in college football versus ranked opponents, yet somehow he's going to Atlanta this year. Just thought I'd throw that out there. One of them's a Heisman candidate this year. One of them's not. The one who plays for Florida is not. So there you go. There's your brilliant.
Normally you say something that's ridiculous, but everything you've said actually factually checks out. So I can't give you any backhanded whatever. I mean, what you said is pretty much true. So
Yep. Just wanted to remind the Florida fans who are out there who might be listening, your coach is a total fraud, and you always will be. And I'll let you go with 43-18, Rob.
You have a great weekend, sir. Enjoy the football. All right, there we go. One more call, 803-978-1832. Back out to the phones we go. Welcome into the Rundown.
Hey, Rob, it's Scott from Hartsville.
Scott, what are you doing in Hartsville today?
Man, we're loading up the motorhome. We fixing to make the trek to Raleigh. We got the steaks and the beer already piled up, and we're going to be sitting on the home side.
Oh, so you're going to be sitting behind the wolf pack?
Yeah, we're going to sit behind the wolf pack.
You know, there was an article about South Carolina, and they have the rooster crowing during the game down here at Williams-Brice. They've got like a wolf howling.
Yeah, they got the wolf
howl,
there,
and it's like all of that's annoying. By the way, I don't get the whole let's have things yelling at during the middle of the game. Let the crowd do it. Come on, man.
Well, we're going to have so much Miller Lite in us, we're going to make fun of it.
How do I not get invited to any of these damn tailgates? Do I have to come to Hartsville and make friends with people?
It's great, man.
Yeah.
We got some lobster tails. We got some steak. We got plenty of Miller Lite. Got some sweet tea. We're ready to go.
Well, you guys are heading up there this weekend, man, and we'll see how Clemson does. The Panthers last night, they won a game but shot themselves in the foot a little bit. So
yeah. Chris Mccaffrey getting hurt didn't help him.
That's true.
Yeah. So, what do you think our chances are of actually pulling one out here at NC State? I hear everybody talking about this is the year.
They're a 10-point favorite. They're supposed to win. So, I mean, look, I think there's a section of people that are just like hoping and praying that Clemson falls off the face of the planet because – and a lot of it are the folks from the SEC that are like, oh, my God, they have a team that can compete against teams that are here. Wait a minute. This Clemson team beat Alabama by 4 touchdowns. We don't have teams in the SEC that can do that. How the hell does that happen? So, the underling teams, the teams that may have great talent but never really win anything, Georgia, Auburn, teams like that, they're really upset. Why can't we do that? We have SEC money. So they want Clemson to fall on their face a little bit. They all lost their minds when Georgia won their Super Bowl, the first game of the season, which was, of course, the Clemson matchup. and everybody's waiting for him to fall on their face. They were mocking Dabo Swinney for touching the rock and running down the hill. That was the
done
biggest
that ever
thing.
since he got the job.
Yeah, that's their biggest thing. He's been doing that for, I don't know, 12, 14, however long he's been there now. But this
we were there his first game.
Yeah, Twitter's like, let's make fun of Dabo Swinney for running down the hill and touching the rock. Just
he runs down the hill.
There is hilarious to me, but
he gets in front of everybody and then he welcomes his team out onto the field. I don't see what's so bad about that. And you have other coaches leading their team out through the smoke. I don't see what the difference is.
Well, the fire extinguishers and everything else. But
yeah,
whatever. I mean, it's I just don't get it, but we'll see how it works out. I think Clemson will be fine against NC State, and I think the offense, I think it's going to change a little bit this week, and I think they're going to stop running so many different running backs out there, give Will Shipley the ball, and I think Clemson will be fine. I'll give you my full pick later on.
Well, we put some money on the Kentucky game, so hopefully that's going to come through for us, pay for our trip.
Well, we'll see how that works out. You're not supposed to gamble. Governor McMaster says we're too stupid to gamble, but
we're too stupid to gamble.
Yeah, that's basically what he says. But we'll see how that works out this weekend.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good weekend.
Enjoy your trip, sir. Thanks a lot.
Oh yeah.
All right, there you go. Calling us from Hartsville. Imagine that. All right, we'll take a quick break here in a moment, but I've got a couple things we're going to throw out there before when we come back. Obviously, I've got my full picks against the spread here. We'll do that in a moment. Also, teams that are on upset alert. Yeah, we'll get into that when we come back. There are some teams that that may fall this weekend. So we'll see how that works out across the country. What was it? There was a really good game last night. What was it? App State and Marshall. The passion that's in college football. Someone tweeted out something about that was the App State fans just really hammering the Marshall players as they were leaving the field last night. Man, they are passionate about that football up there on the mountain. That's like if you go and look at that stadium, it's built into the side of a mountain, so it's a lot louder than you would think. But that's a really cool atmosphere up there at App State. But a cool matchup last night with that. And then I was watching the NFL thing, and we may take calls on this later on. There's a love affair with Christian McCaffrey that I just don't get. My big thing with that is I think he's been eligible to play for, I think it's 68 games in his NFL career, and he's missed 15 of them. So he's hurt a lot more than he's not. I just don't understand. I know that he's great when he's on the field, but it just seems like he's just hurt a lot. So there's that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, and we'll have picks, the upsets, and all that good stuff here in a moment on the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. It was actually a pretty good game. That's a good point there, DJ. I think that they try to they're giving him way too much, but it just seems like he's just injured a lot. I'm at the point now where if I'm an NFL general manager, I'm not drafting a guy in the first round. I'm not drafting a guy in the first round as far as being a running back. I just don't see the point. I mean, this is my favorite example of that. Todd Gurley is 28, and he's having a hard time finding a job, and he was a heck of a running back. It's pretty sad. Yeah, I mean, am I crazy to think, hey, why draft one of these guys? Yeah, I can't play Megan's song. Sorry, Megan. They get me fired quick. It's just hard for me to. I think in the first round you should draft quarterbacks, wide receivers late in the first round, but defensive linemen and offensive linemen, that's where you should go in the first round. You can find guys to be running backs, just run a rotation. Yeah, DBs. That's a good point there, DJ. Get you some defensive backs. I just think that I think they just get beat up. Not like you have an Emmitt Smith out there. Well, welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. If you missed the homecoming, I wish I had like great big like pipes like some of the guys that are around here at the station. It's literally like if we go out and like as a group or whatever, and like everybody's like, "Oh, you're on the radio," and then you'll have like a big voice guy here, big voice guy there, and then I order something at dinner, and it literally is like one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. But it is funny though. You hear a great voice like Jonathan Reynolds. You can check out the podcast. I'll have it up for you about 5:00 today. All right, some potential upsets this weekend. Memphis is welcoming in UTSA, Texas San Antonio. Now, Memphis is only favored by 3 points. Now, most people are like, wait a minute, what? It's a Memphis team that I think they got Mississippi State last week. But UTSA is actually pretty good. They got a win over Illinois, which is a team that beat Nebraska. You can look at it from that perspective, but wouldn't surprise me if UTSA is a team that could pull off the upset going into Memphis this weekend. They put up nearly 460 yards a game. Their defense only allowed about 240 yards a contest. But I'm not saying Memphis shouldn't win. I'm just saying that UTSA may have a shot to go in there and pull off the upset. One of the other potential upsets, there's a lot of love for Arkansas right now. The way that I look at Arkansas is that Sam Pittman, like for this season, he basically went into like a blackjack game and he bet his $1,000 that he had up front, laid it all out on the table for the Texas game, and he hit. Boom, got a blackjack right off the spot there. With that, they're playing with house money at Arkansas right now. Ranked 16th in the country when you could think back to the past 3, 5, 7 seasons. Arkansas has been terrible. The Chad Morris era was horrific. I think that's a horrific. That's a good way to describe it. Didn't win a conference game. They were losing games to directional schools from Illinois. I mean, it was tough. But going into his second season here at Arkansas, he has got his team ranked 16th in the country, going to play a 7th-ranked Texas A&M team in Arlington, and they're less than a touchdown underdog. He's playing with house money. Now, on the other hand, Jimbo Fisher is thinking, what happened? This is supposed to be our year here. We're supposed to be challenging Alabama. We played really well last season. We didn't quite finish the job. Alabama blew us out, but we're supposed to have an opportunity this year to be the team that kind of has an opportunity to knock off Alabama. And everyone's talking about Arkansas. This is supposed to be like Arkansas used to be the Vanderbilt of the West. Yeah, not so much anymore. And if he loses this game, you wonder if the folks with the cowboy hats are going to start thinking, why are we paying this guy so much money? He hasn't really done much. What's up with that? Can't win the division? That's probably what'll be happening if they drop this game to Arkansas this weekend. So they're playing loose at Arkansas because nobody really expected them, I think, to be this good this quick. They can shock the world this week and be win number 4 and send Texas A&M spiraling. So that would be interesting as well. One of the other interesting matchups this weekend is Oklahoma State, as they will play Kansas State, a top 25 team. Oklahoma State's favored by 6. I think they win at home. Look for the mullet down there to get the job done. So it's not. Is it really that big of an upset though with Oklahoma State at home? Yeah, just a thought. SMU is at TCU. TCU's favored by 9, but I don't think SMU cares. It's kind of weird that, we talk about Chad Morris. He coached at SMU. All of a sudden he leaves. They start to get better. He coached at Arkansas. He leaves. They start to get better. Maybe it's the Chad Morris effect. I don't know. They do have a receiver at SMU, Rasheed Rice, who can put some stuff together for them. But TCU is favored by 9. It'd be a cool upset if they had the opportunity to go in there and knock off one of the bigger schools in Texas. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Megan says that I wish I had a great big pipe. I don't know. I don't smoke the pipe. Edgel says Arkansas is going to beat A&M by double digits. Oh, loving the Hogs there. Blake says Liberty at Syracuse might be a fun game to watch tonight. Hugh Freeze up there I've mentioned he went to Liberty to find Jesus, has found himself spiritually, and it's working wonders on the field for the Flames as they will. I think that they may knock Syracuse into next month. So we'll see how that works out. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Jordan says Syracuse seems like they can actually run the ball this year. Yeah, but Syracuse hasn't really played anybody. Just that, there isn't much about Syracuse that you look at and you're like, oh, that's pretty good. They are, I think, what is it? Trip Online says Syracuse, they play football. All right, we'll look at some of the matchup with Kentucky and South Carolina. When we come back, we'll have our picks too. When we get back from our break here. South Carolina's I think it's a 3-point underdog to Kentucky. The line was at 6. And it's going to be a beautiful day for football tomorrow. This win for South Carolina, if they can get it, would be a huge benchmark for this season. And you know what? If they can win this game, you got to think, I said at the beginning of the season, I think they beat Tennessee. I think they can beat Mizzou, and I think they beat Troy. I don't think it's that far off, but it all starts with this game against Kentucky tomorrow night. Could South Carolina get to the level of being bowl eligible in Shane Beamer's first season? Yeah, that all happens tomorrow night, 7:00. Kentucky coming in at 3-0. They had issues with UT Chattanooga, but they did get the win over Mizzou. And then they play Louisiana Monroe in the first game of the season. Oof. And just kind of blew through that. Lots of talk about Will Levis at quarterback for Kentucky, but if you look at Mizzou's defense, it's not very good. He threw for some yards there, but it's not very good. And when you really stop and think about it, this may be the South Carolina defense with the way that they've played, as far as they do get turnovers. They've had a couple of pick sixes, and they were +1 in the turnover margin against Georgia. This may be the best defense Kentucky has faced so far this season. So we'll see what Mr. Levis can do tomorrow night at Williams-Brice. And by the way, this is Kentucky's first road game of the season. People seem to forget that. They played their first 3 games at home. And the fan base up there, man, they really believe that this is going to be a matchup that they can come into Columbia and win. So going to be interesting. By the way, check out tomorrow night the best Gamecock coverage on our sister station, 103.5 FM WVOC, and of course 560 AM. You can find that on the iHeartRadio app. We will be doing pregame 3 hours beforehand and postgame. Myself and Christopher Thompson will do the pregame. Then postgame, it's me and Tim Frisbee, former Gamecock receiver, and Justin Hall. So we're looking forward to that. By the way, when we come back, I've got a positive stat about COVID-19. Yeah, we're not going to talk too much about COVID, but this was a cool stat that I'll give you when we come back here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Alan's a Gamecock fan now? Awesome. Yeah, we're going to get better. No, I don't think so. Jerome, I think Clemson's going to be fine. I got to check with Jackpot and see if he wants to stream some stuff on Saturday. Edgel wants us to do a live on Saturday, Jackpot. If you want to do that, let me know. I got it in my notes to text him on the way home because I'm stupid and I forget things. I have to write text messages to myself to remind me to do things. It's pretty stupid. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm going to give you a positive COVID-19 stat. You know, we hear so many things about this amount of people are dying and everything about COVID is bad, bad, bad. I don't really care how you feel about COVID. We're not going to have that conversation today. But from Lou Bezjak from the state newspaper, this is something he put out today that if you are someone that's been following the pandemic, maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. As I follow Lou on Twitter, he's at Lou at the State. Let me make sure I read his tweet exactly. Here we go. From Lou at the State earlier today, only 7 games around the state of South Carolina with COVID-related cancellations, clearly the lowest mark of the season. 2 weeks ago, it was 43 games. Last week, it was 23. So things are definitely heading in the right direction. 7 games around the state instead of 43 at one point, 23 at another on the high school front, where maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So a positive COVID-19 stat today. All right, let's look at some games for this weekend. Liberty at Syracuse tonight. Liberty is a 7-point favorite. I'm not really buying Syracuse. I think that Syracuse is, I think they're going to come out flat. I think Liberty will cover the 7 on the road up there in the basketball stadium, the Carrier Dome. That game is tonight at 8:00. I'll be watching some of that game at some point this evening. Tomorrow, Miami of Ohio and Army. Army's a 7-point favorite. Give me Army -7. Miami of Ohio does have some issues with stopping the run, and that's not what you want against Army. Kansas and Duke, 2 of the worst teams in college football, in my opinion. Duke is a 13-point favorite at home. Give me Duke to win. One of the other interesting matchups tomorrow, an ACC-SEC clash, as Mizzou is on the road at Boston College. Boston College does not have Phil Dracovic, but you look at the line and there's still a 1. They started out as a 1-point favorite. Now Missouri's a 1.5-point favorite. I think Mizzou's going to go in there and clock them. I don't think if you look at Boston College, they opened up the season with a 58-0 win over Colgate. So I mean they beat the hell out of the toothpaste. So congratulations on that. There are other matchups. They gave up 28 points to UMass, and they didn't really look good against Temple. I think that Missouri wins that game and puts a big stamp on that there. Give the Tigers the win there, regardless if it's they're a favorite or an underdog at 1.5. North Carolina at Georgia Tech. Lots of folks are looking at Georgia Tech saying, oh, maybe they're a little bit tougher this year. I think that when you watch the Georgia Tech Clemson game last week, I think that was more about what Clemson did to themselves. I still don't think Georgia Tech's very good. North Carolina's a 13-point favorite on the road. I think they will cover. And look for Sam Howell to have a big game there. Other matchups that I have circled. Let's see here. Georgia and Vanderbilt. I think Georgia covers the 31. I doubt Vanderbilt scores. So the over and under on that Georgia Vanderbilt game is at 53 or 55. I'm sorry. I think Georgia wins like 42-0. I don't see Vanderbilt scoring at all. Their running a game is terrible. So I'll give up the 31 from Georgia and take the Bulldogs there to blow them out. West Virginia plays at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 19.5-point favorite. West Virginia looked pretty good against Virginia Tech last week, but Oklahoma at home, you got to think eventually that offense is going to get completely right. But I don't really think they play much defense in the Big 12, except for maybe West Virginia. So I think West Virginia, I'll go with the couch burners there, and I'll take the 19.5. LSU at Mississippi State. I don't really buy into the Pirates. I know Jonathan was saying earlier that he thinks that the offense is going to work there. I'm just not buying it, man. LSU is a 2-point favorite. Give me LSU to cover or I think they're going to win by probably 10 points down there in the land of the cowbell. Texas Tech in Texas, I still think the offense needs some work down there at Texas, but I don't think Texas Tech is very good. So give me Texas to cover the 13 there. And we have Tennessee at Florida. It's one of those matchups where I think Florida's running around thinking we almost beat Alabama, like the biggest moral victory of the year. But in the end, I think that Tennessee still got issues as far as the amount of scholarship players that are from a Power 5 set. It's going to take a little bit for Josh Heupel. I think they go down there and take their lumps. And I'll take Florida to cover in that matchup. The Clemson matchup with NC State. I think this is the week Clemson gets it fixed. And what I mean by getting it fixed is they stop giving the ball to 5 or 6 different running backs. Give it to one running back. That would be Will Shipley. And the big story, the headline before it comes out, Will Shipley was supposed to go to NC State. I think his dad went to NC State. And he said, you know what? I'm going to go to Clemson. I think that's going to be the story, is that he basically, quote unquote, comes home and runs over NC State. So I'll take Clemson and give up the 12. Blake asked, how many times am I going to pick against Mississippi State? They don't impress me until they impress me, sir. There you go with that. South Carolina and Kentucky, the big matchup here in Columbia. The opening line on this game was South Carolina was getting 6 points at home. And I think that's just way, way, way too much. I do think the line at 3 seems about right. So I think Kentucky, as long as they don't turn the ball over, I think they have a chance that they can come in and get the win. But if South Carolina can get one of those pick sixes that they got against ECU and Eastern Illinois, and and if they can keep the turnover margin on the plus side, then I think South Carolina can win. But when you really stop and look at it, Kentucky right now, I think, is better coached, meaning that they've got players that have been in the system longer and they know what they need to do at this point. Whereas I think South Carolina is still building. So I think Kentucky's going to win tomorrow. Give me the Wildcats 24-17, something like that. All right. So as I said, tomorrow, our best Gamecock coverage on WVOC, which you can find on the iHeartRadio app. We'll also be streaming the postgame show on Twitter at 103.5 FM WVOC. You can find us on the Twitter app there. We'll stream the whole postgame show. We'll have that up for you tomorrow night as soon as the game ends. So be sure to check that out. Don't forget Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk. He is next. He is the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Yes, follow him on Twitter. He is at Clemson Sports, and he'll give you everything you need on the Clemson front, and tons and tons of Gamecock listeners that are in the closet, but they listen to Clemson Sports Talk. All right, so with that, enjoy the games this weekend. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Rob Sounds Good, and we will see you tomorrow on WVOC. All right, you guys are awesome, man. We'll see you guys later on. Thanks a lot, man.